All right, there we go. Started the recording. Welcome, everybody. My name is Brad Waldschmidt. I'm a consultant who works with the Nashville Department of Transportation on their neighborhood street traffic calming program. And tonight we're here to talk about two streets, Jones Avenue and Edwin Street. So thank you very much for taking the time with us this evening. I'm joined by my colleague, Dylan. Dylan, I'll allow you to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. Yeah, my name is Dylan Weaver. I work over here at Kimley Horn and on the development services team, and I'm just here to kind of assist Brad with uh, going through these projects. So, glad to be here.
Excellent. So thank you very much. So what we'd like to do is we're probably going to go through about a 12 or 15-minute presentation. We want to talk about traffic calming. We're talking about Jones Avenue and Edwin Street, some solutions that we've designed to slow vehicles down. And we're going to go through the design we've prepared. We've prepared a design. We're going to zoom in very closely, show exactly where in front of whose properties we've proposed these speed cushions, and then talk about next steps, talk about the opportunities that you all have as property owners for whether these get installed or not. So at the end of that presentation, again, about 12 or 15-minute presentation, we're going to open it up to Q&A if you have concerns or feedback or thoughts. There's going to be two ways this evening that you can kind of share that feedback. The first is at the end, after the 15 minutes or so, if you want to just come off of mute and ask your questions that way, that's totally fine. The other option is at any moment during the presentation afterwards, you feel free to type your questions or feedback in the chat box. I believe whether you're logging into WebEx through a browser or through the software, I believe there should be a chat tool kind of in the bottom right corner. And that's what Dylan will be doing. Dylan will be kind of monitoring that chat box, and I'll be checking in because it's how I can't really see the chat box as well to kind of, we'll kind of tag team it that way. But that's where we're going to go and get started talking about Jones. Before we get going, Councilmember Parker, I know you're on the call. Do you want to say anything to kind of introduce and kick us off?
Yeah, thank you, Brad. Just want to thank the engineers, the traffic calming team, as well as all the neighbors who joined this call. Traffic calming is one of the things that I get the most requests for as our council member. And so when neighbors get together and submit a successful application, that's always a good thing. And I'm really excited to see the design here. I know that there's three folks that dialed in with their phones. So for those folks, maybe we can get your information at some point in case you want some kind of follow-up. I don't know, maybe I could bring y'all printed copies of the plan or something if you wanted to review those, because I don't know if you're able to see the screens that'll be shared, but if at some point you maybe after the presentation, if you come off mute and you let us know who you are and where you live, maybe we can bring you some printed copies or something like that. But with that, we'll go ahead and I'll turn it back over to Brad.
That sounds great. And Councilmember Parker, I'll just add that we do try to cater to people who are calling in for what we're speaking. So hopefully we can try to describe some of the things we're looking at. And then NDOT has also gotten into the practice within a few days, usually, of posting. This is why we record these meetings now, of posting these meetings onto their YouTube channel. And so that's another way that people, whether they're calling in or maybe even aren't joining us tonight, the meeting should be up on YouTube in the next few days, usually.
That's excellent. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work to share my screen here. And then Dylan, I'm going to ask you, are you able to see my screen okay? The title slide? Oh, I can't hear you, Dylan. Is the title slide showing up? I just want to make sure it's working okay.
Sorry about that. It's showing up.
Okay, great. Just always want to make sure before we get going that it's doing what it should be. So again, we're here to talk about Jones and Avenue and Edwin Street. This is our second meeting to talk about them, and we actually have a design we want to get to. But for those of you who it's been a while, or maybe it weren't the first meeting, we want to make sure we cover what is traffic calming. The traffic calming program here in Nashville is focused on residential streets, and we're looking at physical solutions that are really working to lower vehicle speeds along a length of a residential street. We like to talk about 3 E's of traffic calming. And the first E, this meeting's a great example of that, education. We as the engineers can educate neighborhoods and citizens like yourself about some of the options to slow cars down, but you are the experts of your streets because you live there. So we really have a great, together we're a great 1-2 punch, great teamwork to really try to calm these residential streets. A second D, which is absolutely part of the recipe, is enforcement. That is enforcing the posted speed limits on residential streets. Very important. However, it's not something that NDOT has a lot of jurisdiction over. And so while it is important, it's not something that NDOT does much with as far as the enforcement. But there is a third E, and that third E is engineering. And that's absolutely something that NDOT can do through the traffic calming program, modifying the neighborhood streets in a way to really reduce those vehicle speeds. Now, this slide is very, very important. One of the main reasons the traffic calming program is present in Nashville is for safety, and this idea of a vision toward having 0 deaths on our streets. You can see here that if something unfortunate happens, like a pedestrian gets hit by a moving vehicle, and that moving vehicle is going 25 miles per hour, they may be injured, but they're going to have an 89% chance of surviving. That pedestrian will. But if you look over to the far right of the screen, if that same vehicle is going 45 miles per hour and something awful like that happens, that pedestrian only has a 35% chance of survival. This is one major reason why the traffic calming program is working to really reduce speeds closer to that 25 mile per hour mark. So, hopefully there's not crashes, but if there does, we want people to be surviving them. So that's one of the reasons why Jones Avenue and Edwin Street, where we're here. It's another reason why just today, Nashville and NDOT announced another 85 streets to kind of go through the next round of traffic calming program. Jones and Edwin are here. We're talking about them. We got the design, but it is so important. So that's why NDOT just today announced another 85 streets. This slide right here, we want to make just team effort to make streets a little safer. This information is a little dated, but you can see back in February, over 450 streets had been applied for traffic calming. And you see each time, usually only about 25 or 26 get chosen. Today was sort of a special day due to some council decisions with some of the budget items. But normally it's about 26 each time. Again, we're here to talk about Jones and Edwin. Those are 2 of the streets that have been previously selected that we're here to talk about that design. So we're here to talk about traffic calming, but we always like to make sure that everybody on the call is aware of what if you have something that's not traffic calming, but you think someone needs to know about it. We really like to make sure that people know about the Hub Nashville tool. You can either dial 311 or you can go to hub.nashville.gov. This can be for things like if you think if there's a stop sign that isn't somewhere but you think it should be, or there's a sign knocked down, or even like a storm drain inlet that's just clogged, or something you think an engineer or someone at NDOT needs to know about, this is your best way to make sure that request or that concern gets routed to the right person. So we always like to make sure people know about Hub Nashville. Again, 311 or hub.nashville.gov. But for traffic calming, Dylan and I, we got you covered tonight. No worries. But this is sort of our little PR for other things you may have. Now, you all know where you live, but we always like to make sure we love location maps. So we're here to talk about Jones and Edwin. These are the streets that are highlighted in yellow on the map. We are looking at Jones between Douglas Avenue and East Trinity Lane. And then we're looking at basically the entirety of Edwin Street, all the way over from Meridian through Lishy, through Jones, and then where it kind of takes that 90-degree turn and intersects with Trinity. So those are the 2 streets that we're here talking about this evening. So the traffic calming measures, we looked at a few different options. What we've proposed is something that Nashville is really designing and implementing a lot of in the traffic calming program. It's something called speed cushions. Now, what these are their rubberized devices that get bolted into the pavement. At their highest point above the pavement, they're about 3 inches. You kind of ramp up and ramp down. And essentially they're effective, as we'll see in the next slide, at kind of really reducing those vehicle speeds, because people have to drive over them as they're going along a street like Jones Avenue or Edwin Street. Now, if you're able to see the screen, you'll see some photo examples. There are some examples in Nashville where these black rubberized devices actually cross the entire length of the street with no gaps. It's just one big speed traffic calming device. The ones in these pictures have gaps, either sets of 2 or sets of 3 with gaps in the middle. The reasoning for that is it helps emergency vehicles. It helps vehicles with longer wheelbases in the front, like fire trucks and ambulances. The front axle and tires can actually straddle those speed cushions if they need to. There's usually so much weight in the back of a fire truck or an ambulance that there's extra tires. Those tires do get up on the sides of the speed cushions, but it's still not as directly as if it was something going across the entirety of the pavement. And so that's one reason why on Jones, Edwin, and many other streets in Nashville, the traffic calming design that is being put forth is speed cushions. And a lot of times they're also accompanied by yellow warning signs that some of these photos show also. But speed cushions are what we're proposing along Jones Avenue and along Edwin Street. And I mentioned before, NDOT has done some studies too, before and after, and we are seeing effectiveness. We're seeing that speeds do decrease along these streets once these speed cushions are put in. And that's part of the key is we look at these designs very closely. We don't want to put these speed cushions too close to each other, but we also don't want to put them too far because then people can still pick up speed if they wanted to, if they want to drive reckless. So we really work very carefully to try to find the right spacing to kind of find that balance while also making sure that we're not proposing any speed cushions like right in front of one of your driveways or right in front. It may be 15 or 20 feet, you know, in front of a drive next to your driveway, but we tried. So with all those things we look into, and usually we see results like these graphs here, where we're seeing decrease in vehicle speeds after speed cushions. So what we're going to go through now, I think it's about 8 slides. It's around 6 to 8. And we have prepared a design that we as engineers feel good about on Jones Avenue and Edwin Street. This is a very zoomed out version that's on the screen, but we're going to zoom in and go down each street and talk about where the speed cushions are proposed. For anybody who can see the screen, if you see a trapezoid that is white in color, has the letter C in it, that is a proposed location of speed cushions. And so what we're proposing is 8 locations along Jones Avenue between Douglas and East Trinity, and then 6 locations along Edwin Street between Meridian and essentially that 90-degree curve before you head up to East Trinity. So that is the total count that we're proposing. And again, that number has been chosen based on what I mentioned about not putting them too close or too far, but at a somewhat equidistant spacing, while also trying to make sure we consider driveways and intersections. What we're going to do is we're going to start with Edwin Street. We're going to start near Edwin Street at Meridian and work our way eastward and kind of talk about whose property each speed cushion is proposed in front of. That may be helpful for the people on the phone also who can't see the screen. And then we'll go to Meridian and work our way along that street. So here we are. North is still pointing up on the slide, if anybody can see. So we're here on Edwin Street. You can kind of see Meridian. So if you turn from Meridian onto Edwin, the first set of speed cushions is proposed near the 316 and 317 AB addresses, and then continuing on Edwin Street to the east. The next speed cushion location is near 331 and 336. Those are the first 2. Then you stop at the stop sign, and then you cross through Lishi. Then our next speed cushion location is in front of 405, very close to the Tom Joy Head Start School. And then continuing east, the next speed cushion location is at 425, also kind of more in front of the ball field there, but right in front of 425. Then you keep going east, and you're going to stop at Jones Avenue because there's a stop sign there. And then you continue on east of Edwin. The next speed cushion location is right there in front of 501 Edwin Street. And I'm going to go to the very next slide. And the final speed cushion location along Edwin is located at 517, between 517 and 519 Edwin Street. Now, if you have questions or thoughts on that, Edwin, if you can hold them off till the end, we will definitely answer questions or get feedback on that. But that's the Edwin Street design. I want to switch now to Meridian and kind of go down to Meridian near Douglas, and then we're going to work our way. No, now we're looking at Jones Avenue near Douglas Avenue. If you'll notice, the north arrow is now pointing to the right, so we're going to kind of work our way right, and that's going to basically be going north. So there's 8 locations total. So the first one is proposed near 1311, 1313 Jones Avenue. Then you go through Crockett Street going north. The next location is at 1401 Jones Avenue. Then the next location, I've moved to the next slide. The next locations are at 1413 Jones Avenue. Then you go through Ward Street. The next one is kind of between Ward Street and 1502 Jones. Then you keep going north through Oneida. The 5th of 8 locations on Jones is kind of near 1512, right between those 2 driveways at the 1512 address. Now I'm going to go to the next slide. That's going to be our final 3 speed cushions on Jones. The next one's at near 1524. And then you cross through Joy Avenue. The next one is at 1809. 1809 is right across from that Tom Joy Park. And then you go through Edwin Street, and there's one last location proposed at 1901 before you get to the East Trinity Lane intersection. And then what this last slide shows, this kind of gives you an example. If anybody was to, if these speed cushions are installed, if we were to kind of fly right over them and look straight down on the ground, this is what they would look like. You'll see that the image on the left has 3 speed cushions with those gaps. You'll see the other has 2 speed cushions with those gaps. And we design those differently based on the width of the street. You know, if the street's a little narrower, the 2 is really all we need. And if it's a little wider, the 3 is what we need. What we're looking to do is we don't want to, you know, on a wide street put down 2 and there's kind of this really excess amount of pavement. And if there's still some people that want to drive dangerously and drive a little too fast, we want to really try to prevent them from still driving around these things. So that's why we kind of design them differently for each street. So that's the design. I think we only have about 4 more slides, and then we can certainly come back to these with questions or specific thoughts, but I want to move on to the next. So again, this is meeting number 2 in the process. We've prepared the design. The next step is very exciting. There's going to be an online ballot. You all will get to vote. Property owners along Jones Avenue and Edwin Street will get to vote on whether these traffic calming designs happen. So just like the mailers that got sent out for this meeting, there will be a 3rd round of mailers. There was one for the first meeting, one for the second meeting. Then there will be a 3rd round of these mailer ballots. And you will have the chance to vote. Yes, you support the traffic calming design, or no, you do not support the traffic calming design. The ballots will look a lot like the mailers that you've seen before. It'll look like that upper left corner, and everybody gets a unique ID code. So when you go to the website that is on that mailer ballot and you put in your information, you each have a unique ID code so we can make sure you're who we think you are when we're tallying up the votes. And when you go to the website, you put in all your information. And if you can't remember what the design showed, we're going to have this design we just walked through uploaded to the NDOT website. So even while you're voting, you can, if you can't remember, you can click on a link and open it up and be looking at that to remember. It's also helpful for somebody who maybe wasn't on this call tonight to be able to still review the design and kind of understand what they're voting for. So when those mailer ballots go out, that's going to open a 6-week voting period. And at the conclusion of that voting period, NDOT, we're going to tally up all the results, and we're going to see, okay, how many people voted, how many people actually voted. And if 2/3, at least 2/3 of the people that voted yes, the traffic calming is going to happen. And if that these speed cushions will get installed. If the threshold's not met, then the speed cushions will not be installed, but NDOT will work with the neighborhood applicant and the council member on a different option, perhaps maybe some signs or maybe some radar feedback signs, you know, something that's still traffic calming, but maybe not as effective as the speed cushion. And so that's the exciting part, is we've prepared this design. We can get some questions and feedback here in a minute, but ultimately this is the decision of the property owners that live along these streets. Now, most designs were doer for one street, so I want to make sure we highlight something. These will be two separate votes. That we've put the design together for two streets, kind of together, Jones and Edwin, as one design. The voting will be separate, so it is possible that one street could yield a successful vote, but the other street could yield an unsuccessful vote. So it's not a all in either way. Both could be successful, or both could be unsuccessful, or it could be 1 and 1. Just wanted to make sure we touched on that since there's two streets on this one. And what this does is kind of gives you for Edwin Street, any residential properties that touch Edwin Street will be eligible to vote for the Edwin Street design. Now I'm going to go to the next slide. Similarly, any residential properties that touch Jones Avenue will be able to vote. We do not have businesses vote, I don't believe. And so I think there may be a few businesses that are highlighted. They will not vote. We kind of filter through that before they go out. And I'm not even sure the park votes either. So I see that that's selected. So, but generally you get the idea. If it's a residential property owner along these two streets, they will get a vote. And then one thing we always like to make sure we're very just transparent about time frames. Mention that you could expect to see the ballots in the next 2 weeks. These ballots will hit your mailbox in the next 2 weeks or so. I mentioned the 6-week voting period after that. If the vote is successful, what we've been seeing is about 4 months to get the materials, these speed cushions, fabricated and delivered to Nashville, and then another 4 months on top of that to actually get them installed. Now, the reason those are longer time frames, that 4 plus 4 months, the reason is there have been so many successful votes recently with traffic calming program. And I'll say the other good news is NDOT is working hard to really reduce those time frames. So we have been seeing these types of time frames because of the success and the huge demand, but NDOT is working to actually lessen these so that the times won't be as long. But this is what we've been seeing, so I just want to make sure we get that in front of you all as well. So again, my name is Brad Waldschmidt. I will kind of stop with the monologue or the 15 or 18 minute presentation. I want to open it up to questions or feedback. First, I'm going to go to Dylan, my colleague. I'm just going to ask Dylan, has there been any questions in the chat so far?
No, there haven't been any questions so far.
Okay. Well, great. Well, if anybody wants to type a question in the chat, that's great. If you want to come off of mute, that works just as well. I think we have about 9 people, so I think we have a manageable size. We're coming off of mute would work just as well.
Okay, well, can I start? Can y'all hear me? This is Elizabeth. I'm waving my hand.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much for this important work. A lot of work in government is sort of unseen, and I want you all to know that I get that. And this is really important and very appreciated. And I hope you will share that with your colleagues and just say, thank you so much for doing this. Generally speaking, I trust your judgment, and I have seen and driven over these various speed bumps or whatever you want to call them in other parts of town. And I think it's great. So I trust your judgment entirely. Thank you so much for doing this. And just please know that it's really appreciated. This is the kind of thing that could save a child's life or an elderly person. And we don't really give that much thought because when it doesn't happen, we're just, I guess, glad. So I just want to say thank you so much. This could really save someone, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback.
Hi, my name
Hello.
is Shirley, and I live on Jones Avenue, and I've been on Jones Avenue for over 50 years. And over time, I have seen so many problems, people having wrecks, and I have had people to go around me on this street at a high rate of speed. I turned off of Douglas last week, and I was headed north on Jones, and right behind me was a driver who immediately went around me and went up that street at a high rate of speed. And and I'm so glad to hear that you all are considering this, because I have heard in the past that the homeowners had to agree to this, but it sounds like that you all have taken a different direction, and that really pleases me, because it is most people they go from one end of the street to the other, and they are not adhering to the speed limit at all. The speed limit was reduced to 25, and that didn't work. Didn't do a thing, because they still go down this street. They start at Trinity Lane and go down, like they're at the Indianapolis Speedway. And it is very comforting to me to know that you all are considering these bumps. And one concern my daughter had when we were talking was emergency vehicles being able to navigate these streets. But you explained that with the two different sections, where you've got the three sections, and where the emergency vehicles will be able to straddle the certain middle bump, and I understand that, and that that really doesn't concern me, because I'd rather have them to be slowed down a little, because it's not going to slow down enough, in my opinion, to endanger someone who is looking to have emergency vehicles get to them. And this is a great idea, and I plan to vote yes on this, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And I understand it's going to take a little time. Rome wasn't built in a day, but yes on this, and as soon as I get the ballot. I thank you very much, and I appreciate your efforts.
Absolutely, yeah. And two quick things. The first is on the emergency vehicles. The front axles can usually straddle these speed cushions, but with all the weight in the back of these emergency vehicles, usually they will have to touch up on the sides of the speed cushions a little bit. So if I'm being very candid, they may be impacted more than a smooth road of asphalt with nothing there, but it's not impacted as much as something that goes across the entirety of the road, say like speed humps or speed tables. So I think I just want to make sure I didn't miscommunicate before, to kind of understand that balance. And then the other thing is, back to your comment on, we're considering it, like, not only are we considering it, like, that Jones and Avenue are in the program. We as engineers feel good about the design. It's about to be solely in the court of the property owners for a vote. So it truly is up to the property owners along Jones Avenue and Edwin Street once these mailers go out in a few weeks to vote, and that's who will decide if the speed cushions happen.
I thank you, because most of my neighbors that I've talked to, they're in favor of that, and I hope that all of them along the street will see the benefits of having this speed calming device on our street. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're very welcome. Dylan, have we had any comments in the chat box yet?
Yeah, we've had one question. They were asking if any of these have been downvoted or have not had a successful passing rate.
Yes, no, that's an excellent question. The answer is yes. Sometimes there are streets that decide they do not want traffic calming on their street. So that does happen every once in a while. If I had to go back and think, it's less than 5% of the streets vote no. So more than 95% of the time or so, when the traffic calming goes to vote, it's a successful vote. The traffic calming design that we prepare goes forward. But every once in a while, for whatever reason, there is a street that ultimately decides, no, they actually don't want this. So But that's the stats that's available on the Nashville website as well on the traffic calming webpage to kind of see those results. But it's a very high percentage of the time people are supportive of traffic calming to lower speeds.
If I can follow up, Brad, on that piece. So I think one of the best things that folks on Edwin and Jones can do to make sure that the vote is successful is talk to your neighbors. If you know folks that are going to be getting ballots, you can text them or say hi to them when you see them out. Just make sure they know that they should check out the plan and hopefully vote yes on it. We've had a couple. I usually get an update at some point during the voting process, of sort of how many ballots have been cast and what percentage is in favor, et cetera. And I think there was one recent where, it wasn't as strong as I would have liked it to be. And I think it was still passing, but it was not quite where I wanted it to be. So, I just started texting people and reaching out to people in the neighborhood. And then that helped get a bunch more people to vote who had maybe forgotten to, or maybe missed their card or something. So I do my best to keep an eye on it if I do get that reminder email about how things are going. And all of the ones in District 5 and we've gotten probably 7 or 8 since I took office, have been approved.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Parker. Yeah, this is great. Anyone else have questions or thoughts? Okay, well, if not, we certainly don't want to cut it short. If anybody has any of your thoughts, we're here as long as you need. But yeah, if there's nothing else, again, I guess that final call. We'll say a final call for traffic calming. Thoughts on Jones or Edwin?
So you all are going to be sending out the pictures that you showed on the program tonight. You're going to be sending those out to those of us in the neighborhood.
That's right. So what I'm sharing on my screen right now, that mailer ballot, which will look very similar to the meeting advertisements that hopefully went in your mailboxes for this meeting here. Yeah, those will be, you can expect those in your mailbox in the next 2 weeks. And then that'll show you, or I guess guide you to the website where you can vote, where the instructions will be to vote. The design that we talked through, it'll be up on the webpage as well, where you can actually view that design. And if there's any of your neighbors along Jones Avenue or Edwin Street who are not here joining us this evening, these recorded meetings are typically up on the NDOT YouTube webpage within 2 or 3 days. And so you can even guide your neighbors to watch this meeting here if they just kind of want to see what they missed. So, but yeah, you can expect those ballots in a few weeks, and that'll open up the voting period for 6 weeks after that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
And if any of the folks who dialed in, you will get that thing in the mail that will have a link to the design. And as Brad said, you can go to the YouTube channel. But if anybody would like just a printed copy of what we looked at tonight, I'm happy to print that out and drop it off at your house. I can't do it for every house in the area, but if any of y'all on the call would like me to do that, I'm happy to bring you a printed copy. Just you'd need to come off mute and give me your name and address for me to be able to do that.
That would be great, because my neighbor doesn't have the ability to get online. She doesn't have cell phone where she can get online. So my name is Shirley Lanier, and my address is 1405 Jones Avenue, 37207.
Yes, ma'am. I'll bring you a printed copy of the designs to share with your neighbor. And then does any of the other folks besides Miss Shirley want it?
Yes, I'm Carrie Hudson, 1314 Jones Avenue,
37207. I'd like a copy as well.
Yes, ma'am. I'll bring you one.
And if someone does not have internet, when these mailer ballots, I keep saying we'll have the website where you can go and vote. It'll also have a phone number of the Nashville traffic calming manager. So if someone doesn't have internet, there will be a way where you can call someone and speak with someone and cast your vote. They may ask for that ID number that's on your ballot to make sure you are who you say you are. But that is another way that even people that do not have internet are also able to vote. So that's going to be an option as well.
That's good.
And y'all, I'm in isolation for a few more days from having a COVID positive thing. So it'll be a few days before I bring you those paper copies. But once I'm free and clear to go back out into the world, I will.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's fine. I understand your situation, and I pray that you will get better soon.
Oh, I'm feeling fine, but thank y'all so much.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Really appreciate your time talking about Jones Avenue and Edwin Street traffic calming. Again, the next steps are we at NDOT are going to put this design up on the webpage. We at NDOT are going to send these mailer ballots to everyone who has a residential property along Jones Avenue or Edwin Street. And then everyone will have 6 weeks to vote, and then we'll tally up the votes and see what the results are. So thank you again for taking time out of your evening, and hope you have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad, and everybody.
So much.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it.